Last September, Hurricane Helene struck western North Carolina, a region that is not used to hurricanes and therefore is not prepared for such a big storm. It caused so much destruction and heartbreak. Since it hit, there have been many a promotion asking for volunteers and donations. However, a much less talked about part of the destruction was the impact this horrible hurricane had on survivors' mental health. It is estimated that 20 to 40% of the survivor population acquired PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and that statistic is not covering the depression, anxiety, and other mental disorders that a trauma like this can cause. With my project, I wanted to dive further into how hurricanes affect people's mental health and what we can do to prevent a negative impact. My hypothesis was that stress levels are increased by hurricanes and that this stress is correlated to how prepared for or used to hurricanes the person is. To test this hypothesis, I created a survey. My mental health surveys always include a question about what mental health resources they have access to, and some questions about how old they are and what region they live in to make sure we reach our targeted audience. This specific survey asked questions mainly relating to how hurricanes affect people's stress levels and how prepared people and their families were for hurricanes. I wanted to see if how a family prepared for hurricanes related to how stressful it was. There's also a question relating to social media and how that affected people's perspectives on hurricanes. For my question relating to mental health services, most people said that they had access to a school counselor, but the second most popular option was no services, with 26.6%, that is over a quarter, of people typing in something along the lines of "I don't know" or "nothing." This shows a problem where kids don't know how to get help if they are having a mental health struggle. My second question asked how many hurricanes someone had experienced. The majority said 1 to 3, which makes sense because the majority of the survey takers lived in Duplin County, where hurricanes aren't as frequent. Then I asked, how prepared are you and your family for a hurricane? The majority said 3, which is not the best, but not the worst either. After this, I put a checklist to ask what their families did to prepare for hurricanes. What I found interesting, though, was that while a majority chose 3, what that 3 meant to them differed. People who chose a level 3 preparedness could have anywhere between 1 to 5 boxes checked off on the checklist. This leads me to believe that what steps someone takes to prepare does not necessarily correspond to how prepared they feel. Next, I asked, do you feel an increase in your stress levels during a hurricane? Most people picked 1 or 2, which I found interesting given the responses to other questions, but seeing as the people taking the survey either don't experience hurricanes often or experience them very often, then they might not either have had a good idea of what their stress levels are during a hurricane, or they experience them so much that it really doesn't bother them. After that, I asked, how do you think social media affects your perspective on hurricanes? This question had the most varying results by far. The first common answer was that it made them seem more scary. This answer was the one that I anticipated. You hear so many horrible stories and see so many awful pictures on social media, it is easy to say it makes hurricanes sound even scarier. However, there was another answer that was just as popular, if not more so. Some people said that social media helped them to be more calm about hurricanes, because from it you can learn what to do in a hurricane and keep track of ones that are close to your area. There were many good points made in both directions by survey takers. These responses tread the well-trodden road of the duality that social media contains. In terms of mental health, it is important to control your online consumption and to make sure that your feed is not full of depressing stories with nothing helpful or hopeful. Lastly, I asked for any additional comments. There wasn't a lot to comment on, but someone did say what I feel a lot of people who experience hurricanes often feel to be true, which is that while hurricanes are a very destructive natural disaster, if you know what to do and are in a safe position, they can at least seem little more than a very windy thunderstorm. Someone mentioned how it can be extra stressful to have family in Florida, where hurricanes often hit, even if you personally never see one. This is an important topic to look into because where I live on the North Carolina coast is constantly plagued with hurricanes every early fall. And with the increase of hurricanes and their intensity, they are becoming more dangerous more frequently. Also, as Hurricane Helene demonstrated, they are spreading in range as well. I wanted to see how we could help cut back on the negative impact these destructive storms have on our mental health. And the main thing is to stay calm and be prepared. However, these storms can be traumatizing events. And in that case, it is imperative we help support those people and make sure they have access to the resources they need. Mental health resources are thankfully becoming more common, but the topic is often still taboo or not taken seriously. And that can mean that even if someone is struggling and even has access to resources, they don't reach out. Hurricanes are events that cause great destruction both physically and mentally, and that mental harm deserves just as much help and attention as the physical does. Thank you for your time.